This presentation is fundamentally flawed. Everyone, I apologize for this waste of time. Meredith's voice slashed through the room as she rose from her seat, cutting me off mid-sentence. My hands froze over the projector remote. 42 pairs of eyes shifted from my market analysis slides to my face. The methodology used here wouldn't pass a first-year business course, she continued, striding toward the front. The conclusions are amateur at best, misleading at worst. My throat closed as she positioned herself between me and the projection screen. This was supposed to be my moment. 6 months of research crystallized into a blueprint for Brookwater's expansion strategy. The largest potential client in our firm's history sat 3 seats away, watching intently. The growth projections ignore basic market saturation principles, Meredith said, her voice dripping with artificial concern. The competitive analysis misses 3 major players. She hadn't reviewed my work before today, hadn't asked to see it, hadn't shown any interest at all. Until now, in front of everyone. I'm embarrassed this made it to presentation stage, she said, sighing dramatically. Tegan clearly isn't ready for client-facing work. Heat crept up my neck as whispers rustled through the room. The marketing director looked away uncomfortably. The CEO frowned. Junior analysts studied their notepads with sudden interest. I stood frozen, clutching my remote like a lifeline, as Meredith continued dismantling 6 months of my life, point by excruciating point. My phone buzzed in my jacket pocket, then again, and again. When Meredith finally wound down her assassination, she turned to me with a tight smile. Why don't you take a seat and I'll walk everyone through the actual situation. I gathered my notes with trembling hands and retreated to an empty chair against the wall. Only then did I check my phone. 3 messages from an unknown number. This is Astrid Novara. Your analysis is correct. She's wrong. Meet me in the atrium. 5 minutes. I glanced up. Astrid Novara, the client, was watching me, her expression carefully neutral as she slipped her phone into her blazer pocket. Before I continue, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button. Your support means everything, and comments telling me what you think help me create more content you'll love. Now let's find out what happens when Tegan meets this mysterious client. My name is Tegan Walsh, and until that morning, I believed I was on track to become the youngest team lead in Brookwater's 15-year history. I'd clawed my way up from entry level, surviving 3 restructures and countless overnight work sessions. Clients requested me specifically for analysis projects. My recommendations had yielded measurable results. None of that mattered after Meredith Benedict became division head. I slipped out of the conference room while Meredith launched into her alternative presentation, slides I'd never seen, using data that contradicted everything I'd researched. Nobody noticed me leave except Astrid Novara, who gave me the slightest nod. The glass-domed atrium stood empty at 10:30 on a Tuesday morning. I paced between potted trees, my mind replaying each cutting remark, each dismissive gesture. Had I missed something critical? Had my analysis truly been that flawed? Your methodology was sound. I turned to find Astrid watching me, her tall figure silhouetted against the morning light. In her early 50s, she carried herself with the kind of confidence that comes from decades of being the smartest person in the room. Miss Novara, Astrid, she corrected, moving closer. And you're Tegan Walsh, the analyst whose work I specifically came to evaluate. Confusion must have shown on my face. Your segmentation analysis, she continued. It applies the Kearney-Novara principle to market volatility, doesn't it? Yes, I said, surprised. It's relatively new, but produces more accurate projections in unstable sectors. I know. A smile touched her lips. I'm the Novara in Kearney-Novara. My breath caught. Astrid Novara, the theoretical economist whose research I'd been applying, standing in front of me after watching my professional execution. Your manager, she said, didn't critique your work because it was wrong. She critiqued it because she doesn't understand it. But the way she spoke, I trailed off, remembering Meredith's confident dismantling of my presentation. People who feel threatened by intelligence they don't possess often respond with absolute certainty, Astrid said. Tell me, did Miss Benedict review your work before today? No. I submitted it 3 times. She said she trusted me to handle it, yet she prepared an alternate presentation. Astrid's eyes narrowed. Interesting. A group of executives passed through the atrium, and Astrid guided me toward a quieter corner. I've been watching Brookwater for months, she said, lowering her voice. Your growth models caught my attention. They mirror projections my own team created, projections that weren't publicly available. I built them from scratch, I said quickly, alarmed at the implication. I believe you. That's why I'm here. She studied me carefully. Tegan, do you know why Veltra Industries is considering Brookwater for this contract? Veltra Industries, a manufacturing giant 10 times our size. Landing them would transform Brookwater overnight. Your expansion into sustainable materials, I ventured. You need market analysis for 5 new product lines. That's the official reason, she agreed. But I specifically requested the analyst who produced the Thomson-Hardy report last year. You. My confusion deepened. Meredith took credit for that report. She received the industry award. Astrid's expression hardened. Did she now? We were interrupted by Astrid's assistant, signaling it was time to return. As we walked back, Astrid spoke quietly. Your manager doesn't know who I am beyond my title. She doesn't know I authored the methodology she just ridiculed. Most importantly, she doesn't know I recognize what's happening here. She stopped, fixing me with an intense gaze. What will you do now? What could I do? Meredith had systematically undermined me in front of the entire executive team. My word against hers. I don't know, I admitted. Think carefully, she advised. Some battles are won with direct confrontation. Others require strategy. She handed me her business card, plain white with only a phone number. When you decide, call me. I returned to find the meeting concluding. Meredith was accepting congratulations from the CEO while Astrid spoke with our chief financial officer. No one acknowledged my return. Back at my desk, I discovered an email from Meredith. Tegan, let's discuss your performance tomorrow, 9 a.m. My office. My stomach twisted. Everyone knew what those words meant. For 3 years, I'd given everything to Brookwater. Weekends, holidays, relationships. I'd constructed databases no one else understood how to use, created analytical tools that became company standard. Now Meredith would fire me, add my dismissal to her growing list of tough leadership decisions, and continue climbing over bodies toward the C-suite. I opened my drawer and began gathering personal items when my desk phone rang. Internal call, unlisted extension. Hello? Tegan, it's Lynn from legal. Lynn Wei had joined the firm around the same time I had. We'd shared late-night takeout during the Thomson-Hardy project crunch. Can you come to conference room B? Bring your laptop. Why? A pause. Just come. Conference room B was small, windowless, typically used for internal meetings. I found Lynn waiting with Sharon from HR. My termination was happening faster than expected. Close the door, Sharon said, her expression unreadable. If this is about this morning, I began. It's not what you think, Lynn interrupted. We need to see your original Thomson-Hardy files. I hesitated, confused by the request. Please, Sharon added. This isn't against you. I opened my laptop, navigating to the archive folder. Why do you need these? The report was published last year. Lynn and Sharon exchanged glances. Veltra Industries is questioning the methodology used for their presentation today, Lynn said carefully. They've requested the original Thomson-Hardy work for comparison. I found the files, hundreds of hours of analysis, modeling, and projections. Meredith must have the finals, I said. She submitted them for publication. That's what we need to verify, Sharon replied. Can you access the version history? As I pulled up the document properties, the timestamp history appeared on screen. Every revision, every edit, tracked by our system. Lynn inhaled sharply. The submitted version never passed through her account. What? I looked closer. There it was. The final report had gone directly from my workstation to the submission portal. Meredith's digital fingerprints were nowhere on the document. She couldn't edit it, I realized aloud. The models were built on proprietary code I wrote. She wouldn't have known how to modify anything without breaking the calculations. So she submitted your work directly, Sharon whispered, claimed sole authorship, accepted an industry award. The door opened. We all startled guiltily. Astrid Novara stood in the doorway, the CEO 2 steps behind her. Found what you needed? Astrid asked, her eyes meeting mine. I nodded, unable to speak as understanding dawned. Excellent, she said. Now, Tegan, I believe we have a strategy to discuss. The CEO's expression was unreadable as he surveyed the room. Miss Novara has raised concerns about the presentation today, he said, his voice carefully measured. She believes there may have been a misattribution of work. Astrid glanced at my laptop screen. Interesting timestamps. My heart hammered against my ribs. This moment could destroy my career or save it. Mr. Brooks, if I could have a moment with Tegan alone, Astrid said. The CEO hesitated, then nodded. Take conference room A. It's more comfortable. He turned to Sharon and Lynn. I need both of you to maintain absolute confidentiality about what you've seen. When they left, Astrid guided me to the larger conference room. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city skyline, buildings gleaming in the midday sun. Far below, people moved like ants, their lives uncomplicated by corporate warfare. Sit, Astrid said, taking the chair beside rather than across from me. Tell me everything about Meredith Benedict. For an hour, I talked about joining Brookwater as a data analyst 4 years ago, about building innovative models that caught management's attention, about Meredith's arrival 18 months back and her rapid rise to division head. She never creates, I explained. She appropriates, takes half-finished work, adds minimal changes, presents it as her vision. When the Thomson-Hardy analysis won that industry award, 3 analysts quit within 2 months. Why did you stay? Astrid asked. I stared out at the skyline. I believe in what we do here. Most of the team does quality work. And honestly, I thought I could outlast her. Astrid nodded slowly. Meredith doesn't know who I really am. That gives us an advantage. She leaned closer. Tell me, Tegan, what do you want? What do I want? Justice? Revenge? Your name cleared? Her removed? Be specific. I considered the question. What did I want? The humiliation from this morning still burned raw in my stomach. The Thomson-Hardy theft still stung. But it wasn't just about me. I want everyone to see her for what she really is, I said finally. And I want to make sure she can't do this to anyone else. Astrid smiled for the first time. A small, satisfied curve of her lips. Good. Here's what happens next. She outlined a plan so breathtakingly simple yet devious that I almost couldn't believe it would work. You're sure? I asked when she finished. Trust me, she said, rising. I've dealt with Merediths before. Just follow my lead and be ready. As she walked out, I wondered if I'd just made a deal with a devil of my own. Back at my desk, a new email awaited. Meeting change. Career discussion with M. Benedict, rescheduled to 4:30 p.m. today. 4 hours to prepare for what would likely be my termination. I spent them gathering files, backing up personal work, and trying to calm the tremor in my hands. At 4:25, I took the elevator to the executive floor, where Meredith's corner office looked out over the park. Her assistant waved me through with a pitying glance. Meredith sat behind her glass desk, scrolling through her phone. She didn't look up when I entered. Close the door, she said. I did, remaining standing until she finally acknowledged me, with a flick of her eyes. Sit. I sank into the chair across from her, noticing for the first time how the seating was arranged. Her chair elevated slightly higher than visitors, forcing them to look up at her. This morning was unfortunate, she began, setting her phone down. But perhaps necessary. Necessary? Sometimes we need a wake-up call to understand our limitations. Her voice carried a practiced compassion. You're clearly not ready for client-facing work. The Kearney-Novara methodology is sound, I said quietly. It's been validated across multiple industries. Something flickered behind her eyes, surprise perhaps, that I wasn't breaking down. That academic nonsense has no place in practical business applications, she said, waving a dismissive hand. But that's not why we're here. Your performance over the past quarter has been concerning. She slid a paper across the desk, a performance improvement plan, 90 days to meet impossible metrics or face termination. You're putting me on a PIP? I asked, scanning the document. Consider it an opportunity to realign your work with Brookwater's expectations. Her smile never reached her eyes. Or you can resign today. A clean break might be better for your career. I knew this game. The PIP wasn't meant to be survived. It was constructed to create a paper trail, justifying my eventual firing. Who will handle the Veltra account? I asked. She leaned back, satisfied that I understood my position. I'll manage it personally. Astrid Navarra was quite impressed with my approach this morning. The lie was so brazen, I almost laughed. Instead, I nodded slowly. I need your decision by morning, she continued. PIP or resignation. She checked her watch. I have dinner with the executive committee in 30 minutes. Take the evening to think it over. As I stood to leave, my phone buzzed with a message. I checked it, then paused at the door. Meredith? One question. She glanced up, already mentally moved on from destroying my career. The Thompson-Hardy report. Did you ever read it? Her expression tightened. I wrote it. Right, I said. Just wondering if you remembered what Section 4 covered? A flash of panic crossed her face before she masked it. The competitive analysis, obviously. Actually, it was the statistical methodology, I replied. Thanks for clarifying. I left her office. In the elevator, I checked the message again. Meeting set for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Executive boardroom. Be prepared with all your files. A.N. At 8:45 the next morning, I sat in the executive boardroom, stomach churning, as senior leadership filed in, the CEO, the entire executive team, legal counsel, the HR director. No one spoke to me. Their expressions ranged from curiosity to discomfort. At 8:55, Astrid arrived with 2 colleagues. She acknowledged me with a subtle nod. At 8:59, Meredith walked in, faltering slightly when she saw the assembled group. Her eyes found mine, narrowing in suspicion. Thank you all for accommodating this meeting. The CEO began once everyone was seated. Ms. Novara has requested a discussion regarding Veltra's potential engagement with Brookwater. Astrid stood. Before we discuss terms, I'd like to clarify yesterday's presentation discrepancy. Meredith straightened. I'd be happy to walk through the technical aspects again. That won't be necessary, Astrid replied. I'm more interested in understanding Brookwater's internal attribution policies. The CEO frowned. Attribution policies? Yes. How do you determine who receives credit for analytical models and methodological approaches? An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. The CEO glanced at the legal counsel. We have standard intellectual property guidelines, he said carefully. All work produced by our teams belongs to Brookwater, but individual contributors are acknowledged in our internal systems. Excellent, Astrid said, opening her laptop. Then I'd like to discuss the Thompson-Hardy report from last year, which won the Kelvin Innovation Award for Analytical Excellence. Meredith's face drained of color. I don't see how that's relevant to Veltra's engagement. Indulge me, Astrid replied with a thin smile. Mr. Brooks, who authored that report? The CEO looked at Meredith. Meredith Benedict led that project. A simple verification then. Astrid continued, connecting her laptop to the room's display system. I've compiled a detailed analysis of the Thompson-Hardy report, specifically its application of proprietary statistical methods. As the screen filled with complex equations, Meredith's breathing became audible. These methods, Astrid explained, are notably sophisticated. They represent a significant advancement in market volatility modeling. So significant, in fact, that when Meredith accepted the Kelvin Award, the committee asked detailed questions about their development. The display shifted to video footage of Meredith on stage, accepting the award, explaining methodological choices she clearly didn't understand. Now, Astrid continued, I've had my team isolate the underlying code structures used to generate these models. They contain distinctive signature elements unique to their creator. Different coding snippets appeared on screen, highlighted sections showing matching patterns. These signatures match perfectly with analytical models created by Tegan Walsh over the past 3 years. Models that became increasingly sophisticated leading up to Thompson-Hardy, then appear in modified form in yesterday's presentation. The room had grown painfully quiet. All eyes now shifted between me, Astrid, and a visibly sweating Meredith. This is absurd, Meredith finally sputtered. Tegan worked under my direction. I developed the frameworks. She merely executed certain technical aspects. A reasonable explanation, Astrid agreed, except for one problem. She clicked to the next slide, the timestamp history I'd shown Lynn and Sharon. The document history shows no input from you whatsoever. Meredith stood abruptly. This isn't appropriate for a client meeting. We should discuss this privately. I agree this is uncomfortable, Astrid cut in, but highly relevant to our potential partnership. You see, the methodology Tegan presented yesterday, the one you publicly ridiculed, was developed by me. The revelation hung in the air like a thunderclap. I'm Astrid Novara, the Novara in Kearney Novara. The methodology you dismissed as first-year business course material has been adopted by 7 Fortune 100 companies. And you, she paused, fixing Meredith with a cold stare, didn't recognize it because you've built your career taking credit for other people's work without understanding it. Meredith looked desperately toward the CEO, who sat stunned. This is a misunderstanding, she insisted. Tegan must have manipulated those records. The CEO raised a hand, silencing her. Astrid, what exactly are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Astrid replied. I'm stating facts and offering a choice. She closed her laptop, surveying the room. Veltra Industries values integrity as much as innovation. We will not partner with a company that allows intellectual theft to go unchallenged. The CEO's expression hardened. What do you want? What do you want? A thorough review of all award-winning work credited to Miss Benedict, full recognition for the actual contributors, and a restructuring of your attribution policies. She turned to me. Additionally, the Veltra project will be led by Tegan Walsh, using her original methodology. Meredith's face contorted with rage. This is a setup. She's been planning this. You have 24 hours to decide, Astrid interrupted, gathering her materials. Your company stands to gain or lose a $70 million contract based on your decision. As she walked toward the door, she paused beside me. Coming? I stood, legs trembling slightly, aware of every eye in the room on me. At the doorway, I turned back. Meredith sat rigid, her career imploding in real time. But something in her expression, a calculated assessment rather than defeat, made my blood run cold. She wasn't finished, and neither was I. The boardroom emptied quickly. Executives departed with averted gazes, murmuring about urgent meetings. Only the CEO and HR director remained, huddled at the far end of the table, voices low but intense. I followed Astrid and her team to the elevator. What happens now? I asked as the doors closed. Now we wait, she said, checking her watch. 24 hours is generous. They'll decide much sooner. And if they choose Meredith, Astrid's expression turned enigmatic. Then Veltra goes elsewhere, and Brookwater learns an expensive lesson about protecting the wrong people. In the lobby, she handed me a business card, a real one this time, with Veltra's logo. My direct line, call me when they reach out. She squeezed my shoulder. And Tegan? Be careful. People like Meredith are most dangerous when cornered. I spent the rest of the morning in a coffee shop across the street, unable to face returning to my desk. My phone remained silent except for texts from coworkers. What happened in that meeting? Meredith locked herself in her office. HR requesting all your project files going back 3 years. By noon, word had spread through the company. By 2, my inbox overflowed with meeting requests from senior directors who'd never acknowledged my existence before. At 3, I received a message from the CEO's office requesting my presence at 9 a.m. the following day. I was awakened at 11 p.m. by my phone vibrating on the nightstand. Unknown number. Hello? I answered groggily. You think you've won, Meredith's voice, slightly slurred. You don't understand what you've started. I sat up, instantly alert. Meredith, 3 years? She continued. 3 years building relationships you couldn't dream of having. You think one client can undo that? You stole my work, I said, anger finally breaking through my fear. You took credit for others' ideas. You tried to humiliate me in front of everyone. She laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Because you needed to learn how this actually works. Talent means nothing without power. Ideas mean nothing without connections. Is that why you're calling at 11 at night? To share career advice? I'm calling to warn you, she said, her voice dropping to a near whisper. Morning won't go how you expect. I've spent the afternoon with 3 board members. The narrative is shifting already. My stomach tightened. What does that mean? It means your precious timestamp records can be explained. Systems glitch. Technical oversight. Meanwhile, your history of unauthorized coding outside approved frameworks raises serious compliance concerns. That's ridiculous. Is it? The board wants this Veltra deal. They'll get it, but they also won't tolerate the public embarrassment of admitting award-winning work was incorrectly attributed. I heard ice clinking against glass. There's a term for it. Plausible deniability. By tomorrow, you'll be offered a promotion, a raise, and a confidentiality agreement that prevents you from ever discussing this again. And you walk away untouched, I said, the realization crystallizing. Not untouched, reassigned, but with my reputation intact and a generous exit package when the time comes. She paused. Take the deal, Tegan. Everyone gets what they want, except justice. Another harsh laugh. Welcome to the real world. Sleep well. The line went dead, leaving me staring into darkness. I didn't sleep. Instead, I pulled out my laptop and began working through every project, every report, every analysis I'd created over the past 3 years. Around 3 a.m., a pattern emerged, subtle at first, then unmistakable. By dawn, I understood exactly what I needed to do. The CEO's assistant greeted me coldly when I arrived at 8:55 the next morning. "They're ready for you," she said, leading me not to his office but to a smaller conference room tucked away from the main floor. Inside waited the CEO, the HR director, and the company's chief counsel, no Meredith. "Tegan, thank you for coming," the CEO began, his smile not reaching his eyes. "After considerable review, we've reached what we believe is an equitable resolution to yesterday's situation." The HR director slid a document across the table. "A new position has been created, Senior Methodology Specialist, reporting directly to the executive team. 40% increase in compensation, discretionary budget for your research, and a team of 3 analysts." The council pushed a second document forward, contingent on this standard confidentiality agreement, covering proprietary methodologies and internal attribution processes. I glanced at the agreement. 6 pages of legal language that essentially prevented me from ever discussing Meredith's theft publicly. "And Meredith?" I asked. The 3 exchanged glances. "Miss Benedict will transition to a strategic advisory role," the CEO said carefully. "Less operational involvement, more focus on client relationships." Exactly as she'd predicted. A face-saving reassignment rather than accountability. "And the Veltra contract? Miss Novara has agreed to the arrangement, provided you lead the project using your original methodology." He leaned forward. "This is a win for everyone, Tegan. Recognition of your work, career advancement, significant financial gain." I studied their faces, 3 powerful people who thought they were managing a problem rather than addressing an injustice. "I need to make a call before I sign," I said. The CEO's smile tightened. "Of course, we'll give you privacy." When they left, I dialed Astrid. "They offered the deal," I said when she answered. "As expected," she replied. "The question is, do you accept it? You knew this would happen." "I know how corporations function," she said. "They protect their reputation above all else. Admitting error creates liability. So this was pointless? Not at all. You've been offered power and position. You could take it, build your career, learn to play their game better than Meredith ever could." I thought about the sleepless night, the pattern I'd discovered, the years of watching my work benefit someone else. "What would you do?" I asked. "I'm already doing it," she replied cryptically. 9:30, Tegan. Make your choice." The line went dead as the door opened. The CEO returned. Alone this time. "Have you decided?" he asked. I took a deep breath. "I'd like Meredith present for this." He frowned. "That's not necessary. It is for me." He studied me for a moment before nodding stiffly. "Wait here." 10 minutes later, Meredith swept in, dressed impeccably as always. Her eyes held a triumphant gleam as she took the chair furthest from me. "I understand congratulations are in order," she said smoothly. "The senior specialist role is perfect for someone with your technical focus." Before I could respond, the door opened again. Astrid Novara entered, followed by a man I didn't recognize. "Hope you don't mind us joining," she said, not waiting for permission as she took a seat. "This is Calvin Mercer, Veltra's chief legal officer." The CEO's expression flickered between confusion and alarm. This was meant to be an internal matter. "Actually," Mercer interrupted, placing his briefcase on the table, "Veltra's interests are directly implicated in your resolution approach." He removed a thick folder. "Over the past 24 hours, we've conducted a thorough examination of Brookwater's analytical output during Miss Benedict's tenure." Meredith's smile faltered. "Specifically," he continued, "we analyzed methodological signatures across 12 major client projects." He opened the folder, sliding printouts across the table. "In every case, we found Tegan Walsh's distinctive coding patterns, yet her name appears on none of the official attributions." The CEO's face darkened. "That doesn't prove." "Furthermore," Mercer pressed on, "we identified consistent patterns of client billing discrepancies on projects where Miss Benedict claimed primary authorship." He produced another document, a spreadsheet detailing hours billed to client accounts, compared against internal time tracking systems. "What's this?" the CEO demanded, scanning the figures. "Evidence that clients were systematically overbilled for Miss Benedict's supposed contributions to projects she had minimal involvement in," Astrid explained, "a pattern that extends across 17 major accounts over 3 years." Meredith stood abruptly. This is absurd. You can't access our internal billing systems. We didn't, I said quietly. I did. All eyes turned to me. Last night, after Meredith called to warn me about today's meeting, I pieced together something that bothered me for years. I pointed to the spreadsheets. Every project she claimed credit for showed the same pattern. Hours added after completion, always attributed to executive oversight. The CEO turned to Meredith. Is this true? She laughed dismissively. Of course not. This is clearly fabricated. The Thompson-Hardy project, I continued, billed at 340 hours. I worked 298. The additional 42 hours, at your executive rate, added $27,300 to the client invoice, money that contributed to your bonus calculations. Her face hardened. You have no idea what you're talking about. Actually, Mercer interjected, we've already contacted Thompson-Hardy. They've confirmed these numbers and expressed significant concern. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. This goes beyond intellectual theft, Astrid said. This is systematic client fraud. Meredith's eyes darted between faces, calculating. This is a witch hunt, she hissed. Based on what? Timestamps and billing codes that IT can explain as system errors? Based on this, I said, pulling out my phone. I played the recording from last night, Meredith's slurred voice admitting everything, explaining how the board would cover it up. Her face went ashen. You recorded me? That's illegal. Single-party consent state, Mercer noted mildly. Perfectly admissible. The CEO hadn't moved, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the table. You have a choice, Astrid said to him. Handle this internally, with proper accountability and restitution to affected clients, or wait for multiple fraud complaints to trigger external investigations. The unspoken threat hung in the air. Regulatory involvement, public scandal, stock price collapse. Meredith saw it too. David, she appealed to the CEO. This is obviously a misunderstanding. Stop talking. He cut her off, voice like ice. He turned to Astrid. What do you want? Full audit of all projects under Miss Benedict's supervision. Complete restructuring of your attribution and billing practices. Public correction of authorship records, including the Kelvin Award. She glanced at me. And Tegan leads our account, with appropriate title and compensation. And this stays private? He asked. Provided the remediation is thorough. Yes. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of documents, signatures, and clipped conversations. Meredith was escorted to her office by security to collect personal items. Her company access terminated on the spot. I signed a revised employment agreement, not as senior methodology specialist, but as director of analytical innovation, reporting directly to the CEO. By noon, Meredith Benedict had been removed from Brookwater's website and systems. By 3, an internal announcement cited her immediate departure to pursue other opportunities. By 5, I sat in what had been her office, still trying to process everything that had happened. A knock on the open door pulled me from my thoughts. Astrid stood there, coat draped over her arm, settling in. I gestured around the space. It doesn't feel real yet. It will, she said, entering to take a seat across from me. Though you might consider a different office. This one has lingering energy. I smiled despite myself. You planned all this from the beginning, didn't you? From the moment you recognized my methodology in the presentation materials. She considered this. I recognized a familiar story. Talented person being exploited by someone with power. I've seen it too many times. She paused. But the beauty of your revenge wasn't my planning, Tegan. It was that you created the conditions for Meredith to destroy herself. What do you mean? You built analytical systems so sophisticated that she couldn't understand them, yet so valuable she had to claim them. You documented everything meticulously, creating a record she never thought you'd use. You worked with such integrity that when the moment came, people believed you instead of her. She smiled. The most elegant revenge doesn't require you to attack your enemy. It simply creates a space where their true nature becomes their downfall. She rose to leave, then turned back. The Veltra contract is real, by the way, and substantial. I expect great things from our partnership. As she walked out, my phone chimed with a new email, an invitation to the executive planning retreat next month, a meeting I'd never been important enough to attend before. Through my new office windows, I watched Astrid cross the plaza toward her waiting car. 3 days ago, I'd been humiliated in front of everyone I respected. Now I sat in the corner office, my name restored, my work recognized. Meredith had been right about one thing. Ideas mean nothing without power, but she'd been wrong about everything else. Talent matters, truth matters, patience matters. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone else. It's about standing in your truth so firmly that those who wronged you destroy themselves. If you've made it to the end of this story, you know the kind of quiet satisfaction that comes from watching justice unfold in its own time. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and share in the comments a time when you witnessed karma come full circle. Your stories help build this community of people who believe in the power of truth and patience. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life corporate drama that reminds us all. Sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to be erased.